Bringing you our news, our views, and our voice. So let's get into our top conversation for the day. There's a renewed debate over whether schools should have police on campus. Now, this comes after another recent shooting in Denver and then in Nashville. This is an especially big issue in places like Chicago.
40 Chicago high schools will soon decide whether or not to keep police officers on campus, potentially joining 30 others who have voted to get rid of school resource officers over the past few years, even as the city's experienced a surge in violent crime. That issue is now coming up in the city's mayoral race, with former school chief Paul Vallis arguing officers can help prevent mass shootings, while progressive candidate Brandon Johnson, a former defund the police proponent, is pushing to get cops out of the schools altogether.
The best thing that we can do right now is to make sure that we are putting forth preventative measures to stop the type of pervasive violence that's taking place.
It is a fact that the Chicago Teachers Union leadership have been advocates for defunding the police, for getting the police officers out of the schools.
Chicago is just one of several major cities that started taking cops out of schools following the death of George Floyd at the hands of police. But after 2 administrators were injured in a Denver school shooting this week, now school officials are reversing that decision.
We need to do even more interdiction with our police officers inside the buildings.
And in Nevada, lawmakers are pushing to repeal a 2019 restorative justice bill that advocates argued would make schools safer. Governor Joe Lombardo says it's clear that progressive law has had the opposite effect.
By looking at the data, we know that the increase in school violence is not an isolated issue. It's a statewide issue.
So this is always interesting because whenever people talk about this issue, security, firearms, mass shootings, it's always a sort of either or proposal. Do we just bring in more police into the schools? Do we only address preventative measures and what have you? My thing is, how about both and?
Yeah, you know, as Detroiters, we're very used to cops being in schools. That's always been a mainstay. So I'm not sure about, this particular city, Detroit in particular. In other cities, I know there's actually a public school police.
That's right. Police department
that caters particularly to, the public school system. I don't know, maybe we're going to have to entertain that, especially with these ongoing unfortunate school shootings. To have, that presence in schools could be the answer, one of the solutions maybe?
I think it's a multi-pronged approach.
Yeah.
You had one of the mayoral candidates in Chicago talk about addressing root cause issues. That's great. Let's have that along with hardening schools, perhaps having security guards, officers, school resource officers in the school buildings to prevent a, say, active shooter, an active shooting situation.
Yeah, one of the defense mechanisms, if you will, that should probably either be put or stay in place.
That's it.
Yeah.